everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, and it has indeed been a while since I've uploaded last. In my defense, I got another job, also getting married quite soon, and just busy, but not too busy to start a new series on this channel, which is to say, I want to make a recurring, non-scripted series of videos where I go through things I'm reading, things I've read recently, and things that I've dropped, just to sort of examine my reading habits through the month or through that period, and share it with you all. So I have my Goodreads account right here, and let's start with the biggest disappointment and subsequently the biggest surprise this month, because I was looking forward to this book. I thought I might like it, but kind of hated it. This is, of course, Ringworld by Larry Niven. Now, I'm someone who has an affinity for golden age science fiction, to grand big idea science fiction, the type of science fiction that doesn't really dwell on characterizations and distinct character growth. People in these stories are usually just vessels for an author to deliver this big idea. And usually that idea is a big dumb object in the sky, or it was. So a big dumb object in the sky was sort of a 60s, 70s subgenre of hard science fiction, where some sort of gigantic alien artifact would appear in the known universe, and humanity would go in and try to uncover its mysteries, which is the case with Ringworld and many other great works of science fiction, but I don't consider this one to be great. In short, this is a work by Larry Niven, who is a known quantity. I've liked some of his work. With Larry Purnell, I think he did a post-apocalyptic novel. Don't remember its name, Lucifer's Hammer or something like that. But in this case, you have the worst of both worlds. You neither have a worthy enough exploration of a central idea, nor you have any type of characterization. And since this is, the type of fiction that doesn't rely on fancy prose, you don't have that either. So what you're left with is just a cool idea that has been really influential. So the best part about this book is not the book itself, but its legacy, the influence it had on the genre. I mean, if you're a fan of Halo, this is the central work that Halo ripped most of its concept from, and for a good reason. And I would wager to say that Halo and most of the things that were inspired, like StarCraft and stuff, are better than this. But I digress. I'm also kind of salty because I've been looking at the awards that this book was awarded, and at that year, Roger Zelazny, one of my favorite authors, was nominated. The first book in the Ember series, which is my absolute favorite fantasy series, was one of the nominees, and it got shafted over this. Just pick up any Zelazny book today, and it reads like not in the same ballpark as this one. But I spent too much time dissing Larry Niven. Let's go on the next book, which is The Quantum Magician by Derek Kinskin. I believe his last name is pronounced. Now, The Quantum Magician is an interesting book that I stumbled randomly. I was scrolling through Kindle before going to bed, and this was under recommended feed, so I picked it up, and I am very glad that I did. This is kind of in a nutshell, it's a far off future where humanity has done so much genetic manipulation that human sub-races were developed. And one of them is a Homo quantus, which is our protagonist. He is a Homo quantus, a human bred essentially to exist in a quantum state or perceived quantum states, which would mean that he has an ability to problem solve and examine problems from all possible angles. And honestly, in a nutshell, imagine if mentats from Dune were sort of depressed and also the main POV in the book. So for all intents and purposes, the main character is a mentat, kind of. And the great thing about this book is it doesn't delve into an escapism or a power fantasy of it all. No, it's kind of quite the opposite. It's not a depressive book, but it has some depression in it. But it's also a heist book, which is the main really fun element. And why is it a heist book? It all kind of connects with the character itself. Since he's a human who exists in quote-unquote quantum state, his creators years and years ago, creators of his race, let's just say, thought that his kind would be humanity's solution to win all of the lotteries, defeat all of the enemies in all of the wars, make all kinds of progress. But turns out their sort of experiment resulted in a bunch of people whose main purpose in life is to solve esoteric questions and problems. And the main character becomes a criminal, not because he needs money, but because of his condition. He needs for his brain to constantly work on complex issues, such as planning heists. And he does plan a heist with an equally rambunctious team of people. And with every novel, a heist story, the best part is getting the team together. So yeah, I do really recommend it. I plan to read other works. I think it's a trilogy. Other works in the series. Quite fun. Other book is an Audible freebie. I was doing a bunch of yard work, like one does, and I've gotten into a habit of listening to audiobooks while I'm doing yard work. And when I was a kid, I hated yard work, and especially mowing the lawn, because I had a very loud gas-powered lawnmower. So yeah, I couldn't even listen to music while doing this. But now I'm an adult, so all of my appliances are electric and kind of not as loud, so I can listen to audiobooks. So I was scrolling through the Audio Plus catalog, which is, if you are an Audible subscriber, with the 1 credit you get every month, you also have a catalog of complementary books. There are either self-published or classics, but mostly just well-narrated stuff, even if they're indie. So this is an indie book by Christopher Woods. It's called This Fallen World, and it's kind of a funny beast. It's a cross between Fallout and Dark Tower. Yeah, sounds awesome. and it is good. I wouldn't call it awesome. It desperately needs a good editor, but I'd really like structure and framework, which allow me to present it. So basically, it's a series of vignettes, of novellas about this character roaming the apocalyptic wasteland. So what happened was, in the future of this fictional world, there was a nuclear fallout, which did not result in, things in Fallout the franchise, like ghouls and mutants and stuff, but it did result in collapse of a society. There are still plenty of humans left, but they are sort of scattered about small territories ruled by warlords. So 20 years after the bombs fell, we have the book's timeline, and the main character is an ex-corporate assassin. So the interesting thing about this kind of genre mashup is the future of the book, or the past of the book, is one where the bombs fell because corporations became as powerful or more powerful as nations, and the main character used to be an elite assassin for that corporation. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but as a result, he is someone with a unique set of abilities. And as the bombs fell and the society collapsed and reformed in a different way, he's roaming the land and trying to sort of find absolution for the things he did in his quote-unquote previous life. And it works like any type of a lone hero, anti-hero even, gunslinger, monster slayer, something like that, roaming the land, taking upon kidnapping and similar cases, and trying to help people, and getting busy himself. And it's a fun book in audio form. I would not recommend it in print form, but even in audio, it's well narrated. It's really well narrated, in fact. But there's this comical thing where the author has this odd habit of repeating the series title. He's trying to make it into this sort of profound saying, because this is in a post-apocalyptic world and people are treating each other badly. There's some graphic abuse scenes and violence and stuff like that, and every other paragraph is something like, so this is what happens when we live in this fallen world, or what can you expect from this fallen world? And I was kind of laughing all the time because I can hear that the narrator is trying to not be self-aware and break character. I'm not sure how the author missed it, because he really went overboard with this fallen world. But yeah, I would actually read a sequel, because I really like this structure. This is the strongest point of this series of novellas compiled into one book. It reminds me of first two Witcher stories, first two Witcher books. They are collections of short stories, but have an overarching threads, and such is the case here. And let's go next to Dusty's Diary, another audiobook that I've read, listened to. I have it in parts here, but I think it was one collected audiobook. And let me talk about this. So It's called Dusty's Diary by Bobby Adair, and I've reviewed Bobby Adair's work before on this channel. I've reviewed his Slow Burn series, and the thing with that is, and the thing with his Slow Burn series is, if you're into his authorial voice, you're gonna love it, because I loved it. But I can see how some people might perceive his work as maybe too edgy, try-hardy, but also he tends to work in a very specific niche, which is survival stories at the end of the world. Slow Burn series that I've sung praises to in the past is a series about a type of let's say zombie mutation. They're not undead, but they're sort of zombies. Their brains degenerate and they chase humans for their flesh. And the story is about survival in that world. Slow Burn series is quite serious. It has some dark humor in it, but it is quite serious, and fun in it is the interaction between two main characters and their friendship. Here, it's kind of the opposite. It's first-person POV, sure, but it's from a mind of a prepper who got himself a bunker, and out of boredom started compiling a diary, because the end of the world happened where some sort of a beauty product mutated people into mushroom people heads. Think Last of Us, but more comical and slightly more docile. And he is trying to stay sane in such environment. He has not escaped anywhere. There are no, common zombie tropes where, oh, I've heard of this place that's safe from the zombies. Not really. He's just trying to see if there are any other survivors in his area, but mostly just try to get himself busy and not go crazy from his seclusion. So it's really sardonic, really fun. As an audiobook, I suggest it. It's fun. Baron Steel. So, Baron Steel. I am not gonna say much about this. It was another Audible freebie, just as Dusty Diaries was. It's like a 40-minute short story about a superhero, retired superhero who runs a superhero agency. And he is retired, but considers his retirement because ending his retirement because he is very particular about his type of coffee, mochaccino, and this barista keeps messing up his order, and he doesn't have the most patient demeanor out of everyone, and it's fun. It's like a good 40 minutes, well written, and as I like this short story, I picked up another freebie from Audible by the same author, R.C. Bruno, and it's called Dad Acre, and it's actually narrated by the voice actor who does voice acting in Red Dead Redemption, Arthur Morgan. And on that merit alone, it's worth a read. The setup is very stereotypical. It's like a half undead revenant gunslinger in a world where demons and vampires exist, and he roams the land and trying to uh, um, um, uh, fulfill his mission given to him by the angels and God and whatever. So yeah, as you can see, I am very much biased towards Western-esque and Western stories. So what can I say? I just like it. And so far, there is an upcoming full-time novel, like a full-length novel. Dead Acre is a novella, a very lengthy one, but like 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. And let's see what I'm currently reading. So, at this moment, I'm reading a bunch of stuff, and I should really update this. Jeez, this is really out of date. So, I've picked up Titanborn, and Titanborn is another R.C. Bruno book, if you could believe so. But this is not a freebie. I used the credit on this. This is a science fiction story about let's see, how should I describe this? This is a story about far future where again corporations rule everything, and humanity has this undying desire to spread itself among the stars as much as possible, because some time ago, I think it's set in 24th century, some time ago, 100 or so years ago, an asteroid fell on Earth and killed half of the population, just messed up with the weather and geography and everything. And people are really adamant on colonizing other places. And the main sort of conflict is, before the asteroid fell and before the humanity wanted to spread out and colonize as much as possible, we already had colonists, a few generations of them, who have found their homes at various places in the solar system, like Titan, as the name suggests, or Jupiter, or a moon, things like that. And they've sort of started to build their identity as not Earthers, but as Outworlders. And even their physiology, just like in The Expanse, for example, because of a difference in gravity, reflected that. So after the asteroid fell and humanity started to spread out, the humanity vastly outnumbered the initial colonizers, who are now natives of such places. And there's a lot of going on in this book so far. I'm halfway through. No, more than halfway through. I'm almost done. And you have things like Earther culture pushing out the Outer Worlders culture. You have big corporations ruling everything. You have concepts such as environmental ones as well. I mean, a lot of really intriguing details, and it's not a long book. It also has a lot of elements that might put off some people. Like, for example, the main character is a bastard. He's quite unlikable. Usually I don't mind this type of character, but here he is. I'm still not sure if the book is trying to justify and put the reader into position of, this is your protagonist, you should like him, or this is the protagonist, but don't think him as a hero. And I have no problem with that. I'm not one of those people who needs a likable or even morally sound main character to follow them. So main character is this type of a bounty hunter employed by one of the major corporations, and what he does is he's a fixer. He eliminates or incapacitates mostly workers at those colonies who do manual labor, mining on asteroids and stuff, or finds missing people and stuff like that. And he's not man of the people, so that's why I don't really like him. He's quite ruthless, very effective, but also quite detached. And a lot of things going on in this book, like shades of Blade Runner with some of the themes, not necessarily the cloning stuff. But imagine if you had a book where Wayland Yutani is the most powerful corporation in the universe, and Rick Deckard works for them, happily works for them even, and actively wants to please them, and hunts and hurts less than fortunate. But everything else around it is quite interesting. The narration is really good. R.C. Bray is one of my favorite narrators. He did the original narration of The Martian, which is not available for purchase anymore, that narration. I'm really annoyed by that. It's been re-narrated by Will Wheaton because some of the rights issue. I don't care. But yeah, this is it. As far as what I'm reading, what I've dropped. I plan to finish this. I want to continue some of the series that I mentioned. And there's that. I know I promised to make this brief and unscripted, and I think I fulfilled half of that promise. It is not brief, but it is unscripted. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for supporting me on Patreon. If you're not, please do like and subscribe. And I am also quite active on my music channel. I'm composing fantasy, sci-fi inspired tracks. Currently, I've been composing music inspired by the Stormlight Archive, because I've reread it, the first book, The Way of Kings, like 2 months ago or so. And goodbye.